Within the past 5 years, we have gotten 3 Resident Evil remakes, but many of us are questioning which one is next, and most of the debate is revolving around 2 games, Resident Evil Code Veronica and Resident Evil 5. The games the fans want the most and the game that Capcom has teased in their most recent remake, which is RE4. Plus, there are a lot of fans wanting a 5 remake too. But what about the other Resident Evil games that either need or can benefit from a remake? In today's video, I will be ranking the remaining mainline Resident Evil games that either need a remake or don't need one. So before we get into that, leave a like on this video to help it get boosted into the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe for more Resident Evil content, as we are literally at a dry spot for either news or genuinely anything as we wait for the next game announcement. So I'll do my best to get you guys covered. But now, without further ado, let's get into it. I'll be ranking the games starting off with the least amount of need to the most amount of need, if that makes sense. Coming in last, or the game that doesn't need it, I sat down for this one and I was saying, yeah, it really doesn't need one, but people wouldn't mind seeing it happening, if that makes sense. And that's Resident Evil 1 again. This is known as the peak of survival horror, and you could argue is still the best remake to date for Resident Evil. But what necessarily do you need to add to this remake that can make it better than the first one? Or is that necessarily your intentional goal? Let's say it happens in a hypothetical scenario. The original RE1 is going to be left to rot most likely, because you can play the first remake on modern consoles and PC. Then if you do another modernized remake, the original game is going to be left to rot, but some people might still be able to play it or want to. Shout out to Capcom for putting that game on PS5, the Director's Cut Edition, specifically. Also, please just port the classic trilogy onto modern consoles. I don't know why they haven't done that yet, and they're doing it with a lot of other games. But anyways, let's continue. But the first remake added so much content to where it makes you question, what more can you add to the next one? Sure, it would be amazing to see the Spencer Mansion, a younger Chris, Wesker, Barry, Jill, Lisa Trevor, Jan, and so many other cool things in the RE engine. Or it might be in the REX engine, who knows. I will say that RE4 fans is probably the biggest cult fanbase for the RE games, but I think second is probably RE1 Remake fans. That's a little bit of a bold take there, I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully no one gets mad at me for that, because they view this as the perfect Resident Evil game, and I'm sure they don't want a remake to see how bad they could possibly mess it up. And I understand that, because I was one of those guys with the RE4 remake, but I was surprisingly proven wrong. But all in all, I believe this is the game that doesn't need the remake treatment the most. And by the way, I'm not throwing RE6 into this, because no. I might get a lot of dislikes, maybe, for this take, but the next game is Resident Evil 5. I love this game with all my heart, but if I am comparing the other games ahead of it, I just don't see the reason and the need for this game to be remade. The only reason I can think of is money. I understand how people want to see this game remade, but needing is a completely different thing. I don't really know what to think of when it comes to adding content and whatnot. The DLCs for RE5 were amazing expansions, and the only thing I can really think of is if Capcom makes the dark and reduces some action parts and adds more horror. There's also another things that fans have been mentioning a bit when it comes to a certain character and how things can change if they prefer the remakes to be more canon than the original, and I do want to make a separate video talking about that. I definitely know they can fix the AI partner system for the remake, and I know this game is going to inevitably happen. I don't have a problem with it, to be completely honest with you, but I still think it doesn't need one. I had those same thoughts with RE4, but I was going to play it nonetheless because it's a Resident Evil game. The next isn't really mainline, but I wanted to mention this game because there is a lot of things that Capcom can do with this game and can ultimately redeem themselves in this department of RE games, and it's Outbreak. One of the most underrated games and was way ahead of its time. I think it would be such a great time to remake this game. They even dropped an Easter egg of Kevin Ryman in the RE3 remake, and it just made me want this game even more. The original Outbreak is still the best multiplayer game there is, and this can 100% eclipse the original to take that title. Even remastering the game wouldn't be too bad, and I would totally be fine with it. You could have more scenarios and honestly more game modes to expand on this game, on top of weapons and character lore as well, keeping the features of each character, like Kevin carrying another more powerful handgun, Yoko being able to carry more inventory, and you get the rest. There's a lot of potential with this game, and I would love if Capcom did something like this. Now, I made a video about this a long time ago, and the link will be in the description as I go more in depth into the potential of an Outbreak remake. The next game I have ranked is drastically slept on in terms of how this game can hugely benefit from a remake. and how much it can sell if executed properly, and that's Resident Evil 0. I did not have fun playing this game, and I feel like this game was released at the wrong time. If this was made around the time when the RE engine came and is still the prequel to RE1, this game could have been so much better in terms of almost everything. The train section of that game was great. I honestly loved it, and I hope they don't fuck anything up if they remake that game. But everything after that felt like a damn burden. Managing the other character if you want them to stay, follow, shoot, or not shoot, it was a fucking hassle. And not to mention of dropping items and having to go all the way back to get them to progress to another stage in the game. Also, please Capcom, if you remake this game, I really don't want to hear James Marcus singing Devils Never Cry. Please just get rid of the opera stuff and make something better for him. Also, I believe what they must add is co-op. Having a co-op survival horror game would be so good for Capcom, as almost all of their co-op RE games involve action. And I think this is the perfect candidate to turn that down and get more horror involved. One of the reasons why RE5 is technically the most sold RE game ever is because of co-op, and even including RE6 despite how notoriously bad that game is. You mean to tell me another remake is releasing and has a co-op feature that has feels like RE2 remake and you have a partner with you? It would make it fun as hell. Does it take away the horrors of having a partner? Absolutely, but I know Capcom can figure it out. I'm going to make another video about this and expand on how this game can be awesome in the near future. Also, co-op is another major reason why RE5 will get a remake as well, even with the tests for RE4. Also, before we get into the obvious game that needs a remake the most, I'm not doing Gun Survivor, Gaiden, Darkside Chronicles, or Umbrella Chronicles, or the Revelations games, as they get zero buzz from the community of a remake, so yeah, that's why. Number 1, it's obvious, it's Resident Evil Village. Anyways, Resident Evil Code Veronica is the most requested remake, as it is quite an interesting game. You have a side of people that absolutely love the game down to its core, and then there is a side that genuinely do not like Code Veronica and would like to see a remake to help justify their experience with the original game. Let alone is that the story feels like a mainline game and is very, very important to what's set up to RE5 and other games. Apparently it is known as a spin-off, but the story is too important to even say that personally. My stance on this is that I haven't beaten Code Veronica, so why do I have it at my number 1 spot? Well, it's because it's my list and I will eventually beat this game. Until I stop playing Madden 24, which has taken about 50 years off my life, or just having fun replaying Devil May Cry 5, and not bothering with the other 4 games that I bought for my birthday, but haven't even bothered launching since then. I also hear out a lot of CV fans. This is the most wanted and needed remake for Resident Evil, even though I think 5 will realistically be next. It would be very satisfying to see CV get that treatment first to help plant the seeds for 5 in co-op. There is no animosity towards an RE5 remake, as I'm looking forward to one. I just think the other games like Outbreak, Zero, and Code Veronica need the remakes more. And no matter what happens, every single one of these will sell at a high rate. So, you guys see my rankings here. If you want to rank your own list on which game needs the remake more, comment it down below and I'll be sure to read your thoughts and opinions on either mine or yours. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe as mentioned before, and thank you for watching, as it means a lot. As always, I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace out and much love.